I genuinely think I have you fooled. I don't naturally have a big heart.
Dom will find a way. He will find a way to get it done.
I always knew you and Elliot had a special relationship. I've just been by myself. Where are you? Genuinely hurt from a brother standpoint.
I apologize. Welcome to the Alex Perry on Fire podcast. Today's guest is not a first-timer, but it's the first time he's been solo. We've had Elliot, my twin brother, on numerous times. We've had Dom on with some friends and the other brothers, but Dom Perry, welcome to the Alex Perry on Fire podcast.
Thanks. Honored to be here and excited.
How does it feel to be solo this time?
Different. No, I think excited. I'm happy to be here, happy to do it. And I think solo is probably a totally different episode. So excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's going to be different, 100%. So just so the audience gets a little bit of a base, kind of maybe just talk about Dom Perry. When I say, what's your story, but like more than that, like how'd you get here? What's going on? Like, what's the story?
Until about 6 or 7 years ago, I was one of the only family members, including extended family, that actually wasn't an entrepreneur, that worked in a corporate environment. And most people don't like their corporate environment. I actually did like it. I had an amazing experience at Brinker, which was Chili's, and left about 6 years ago to start a business actually with the family all being involved, which was a construction site services business, which sounds super sketchy, especially when you have a family involved and your name's Dom. So people accuse us all the time of some nefarious things, but I promise it's a legit business. And so now I've been on that entrepreneur journey for the last 6 years. And I think we talk about this all the time. You'd love to say it's awesome and amazing, but it's really, really hard and really difficult. And we're fortunate to have made it to where we are. We're not a startup business anymore. But that doesn't mean there aren't daily challenges or problems that I'm working on, trying to solve or trying to get better in the process as well.
Yeah, and maybe go into that a little bit more, because you said hard and difficult. Would you say that you felt, maybe comfortable or more comfortable in that, in that corporate setting? Now you're in this space, and it's all on you.
Yeah, there's definitely some imposter syndrome, if I'm being honest, or kind of fake it till you make it. I think after being 13 years in one company and at one company, you get comfortable. You know how to do the role, you know how to be successful, you know all the people around you. And it gets hard to leave because you are comfortable. And so when you go to take on a challenge like this, it is hard. And it's also, I never thought I'd say this, but it's also a little bit lonely. You are ultimately responsible, and you're responsible for everyone else's livelihood and their problems and their challenges and their success. And that takes a burden, I think, on a lot of people.
Yeah, well, on you.
Yeah, I think ultimately, right, you carry that weight and you carry those challenges.
What is it that makes you feel like an imposter or imposter syndrome?
Oh, I think if I'm being 100% honest, I went into an industry that I know nothing about. But you never want to walk into a meeting and say, I know nothing about what I'm actually talking about. So I've spent, 6 years learning the construction industry, or attempting to learn stuff I probably still learn every single day. And I think when you are the founder or you're the leader of the company you're working with or in, everyone thinks you know all the answers. And it takes a lot of vulnerability sometimes to say, you know what, I don't know, or hey, let's figure it out together. And so you feel that pressure to actually always know or figure it out for everyone.
Yeah. And, I think when you're leading from the top, and we've had Doug Brooks, who was one of your mentors, and he said it's lonely at the top, right? It can be very lonely at the top. Who's taking care of Dom on the top?
It's a great question. And I think you're getting at, because you know me well enough to get to some of these things. The truth is, I'm incredibly fortunate to have an amazing wife and daughter who do a very good job of keeping me balanced and taking care of me. But the honest answer is, brothers to an extent, friends to an extent, but it really falls on me. And there's a lot of times where I probably the last person to take care of myself. So that saying, put your oxygen mask on first and help others after. And I think you read the book and you're like, no, you're supposed to make sure you put yours on first and then others. I'm probably the one who puts mine on last.
Yeah, and I think as a brother and as I talk to the audience, like it's it's so hard and yet it's concerning, right? Because coming from someone who didn't put their oxygen mask on first, right? Who literally did what you just said, which was like, I'll go put everyone's oxygen mask on, then I might go, have
Yeah.
some a drink and some nuts on the plane, then I'll go back check it, and then I'll put mine on. And that was it's like it sounds egotistical. It's almost the opposite of egotistical because you're so like, I'll worry about everyone else. But what I've learned firsthand is when you don't have the oxygen, you can't help the other people anymore. And that's a scary thought. And so, how you said it, that you're not really doing a good job, or
Sure.
your wife and daughter, who, my niece and my
Sister-in-law.
sister-in-law, get it right.
You're getting better on the family
Yeah,
things.
exactly. That's great, but as you said, it's still lonely. Like that doesn't create that. So, um, I think a challenge I have with me and you is to be like, because I've lived that for longer than 7 years, for 18
Yeah.
years. Um, I can tell you, like, I wasn't lonely, or I didn't know I was lonely if I was lonely. And I actually don't think I was lonely because my business has so many different people and so many different things going on, but I certainly didn't go internal. Um, and I think that's where we're brothers and we can talk about that and maybe kind of change and switch up a little bit, is like, had I known to go internal and say, okay, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
But I'll ask you this question right now. If I say, Dom, take care of yourself, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question, and I might go back a second to get there. I think you've done a really good job over the past few years, and I know you well enough to read between the lines too. Of you get worried because you're like, I went down this path, and I see you going down this path, and I don't want you to have the same pains I do. And I think it's really easy for us, especially for me. I can give the advice, but I can't even take my own advice, right? So you can see it in other people pretty clearly, but you're really holding a mirror up to yourself, as you say. I To answer the question of how do I do a better job? For me, I was fortunate enough at one point to have a business coach in my career earlier on. And the business coach took me through an exercise where he said, "Close your eyes and I want you to think about the best day you've had in the last year." And I'm like, "I can't even remember the past 2 weeks, let alone the past year." He's like, "Just do it." And I go, "Oh, okay, whatever." He's like, "No, no, close your eyes." And I go, "Okay." And I basically said, "I had fun. I did this, whatever." And he's like, "No, no, no. I want to know from when you woke up at 7 a.m. all the way through the day what you did." And I said, "Okay, best day I had in the past year, I was in Telluride. I woke up, I took my daughter to ski school, went and did some runs by myself, met Lane for lunch, um, did some work in the afternoon, came back, hung out with the family, grabbed dinner, jumped on, did a little bit more work, and then went to bed." And he goes, "All right, that's all I needed to know." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you're not going to be in Telluride every day of your life. That's just not reality. But what you just said is for you to be your happiest, you need balance in your life. You need a little bit of, you know, get the energy out, do something that's exercise in some way, shape, or form. Get a little bit of family time, get a little bit of work in your life. And if you can find ways to structure your days that give you that balance or get you a little bit of all of that, you're setting yourself up for better success or to be happier or to take care of yourself." And ever since then, I've tried to structure my days that way. And I find that when I get super stressed, I cut one of those things out or I avoid them, whether it's the working out, whether it's the family that I ignore because I'll pile into work, whatever it may be. And that's when it actually gets way worse.
Yeah, I hear you. That makes sense. And something I'm thinking about myself as you say that, it just makes me think, and we talked about like the four burners, the idea:
Yeah.
work, health, family, friends. Those are the four burners. And what people have said, some very smart businessmen, in books, is you can really only have two of those firing at a time. Right? So what are those two?
Well, when you say it that way, if you don't have health, good luck having any of the others. Um, and I think what you meant is, hey, you have to have a balance between the two.
Well, I
or
mean,
between
I
the
could
four?
give an example of mine, right? I would have thought mine was health and work probably for the longest time. And what I would have said was health. Work was the easiest, the obvious. I've
Sure.
ingrained in it. And I would have thought health because outwardly I was healthy, meaning I was working out, I was spending time with friends and family, I was working. And what I've come to learn, so this is a little bit of projecting, but I'm giving this as an example for me to you,
Sure.
is that I wasn't healthy, right? I was not healthy because if I was healthy, I would have taken on more of a mental health attitude to my work, right? Which is kind of the question I asked you, which I didn't do. What am I doing for myself, right? Am I taking breaks? Am I creating boundaries with my clients? Am I enjoying um,
Yeah.
vacations? And this is for me, I'm not saying for you, I'm saying, but like, I didn't think about that as health, right? Like, I
Sure.
did not think about that as I was like, well, I can work out like a madman, on pre-workout and adrenaline, right? Physically and everything, it looks right, even though like there were some signs that didn't look so right, right? Everyone has something, they lose hair, they have back pain, right, that is
Sure.
screaming, but whatever. Um, but now as I sit in the chair, right, and I'm working so much, and the audience knows this, on health, because that's what being in flow is, all these things kind of working, but for me is health, right? And mental health and physical health,
Yeah.
um, is its health and family. Those are my two burners right now. Doesn't mean no work's getting done. Like Jeff Bezos said this, like it's not like Amazon went to nothing, right? He put people in power and he
Sure.
he managed from above, but he changed his things. He left CEO. Obviously, he's doing a bunch of different things, and there's other examples. Um, and family, like I've leaned on you tremendously in the last year because you want to choose people that you can trust, right? That have the best, it makes me emotional because it's the truth, that have the best intentions for you. Um, so, when I talk to you like that, it's like, okay, work won't leave you.
Yeah.
I know you. You love your family more than anyone. Like you're Mr. Family Man. Um, so it's one of those things. It's like, it's tough for me. And it's like, I'm not trying to make you choose something. I'm just saying, we're just talking about these things. And it's like, it's a hard balance.
Oh,
And talk about friends. I mean, I love my friends. Right. But I do believe there's some truth to that.
uh, Al, it's hard for me actually not to get emotional when you say it, and the truth is, listening to you, it probably actually stirs up some of my own insecurities, which is I over-index or I go into my comfort zone at the sacrifice of probably some others. So, you know, I think we've been for whatever from whatever age is, hey, you might not be the smartest, so you got to do something else. So I've always believed, okay, I'm not going to be the smartest, but I will outwork you. And your identity and everything you do all of a sudden becomes about, okay, I will outwork you. And so for me, there's sacrifices that happen when you choose that path. And I do a really good job hiding a lot of those things or sweeping them under the rug. But if I'm being honest, the people that suffer the most are the ones that are the closest to me, which is my daughter and my wife, because they don't get all of me, right? Where some of the other family might, or some of my friends
Sure.
might,
Yeah.
but they don't, and that's super hard for me. Um, and part of it is because no one teaches you how to be a good parent or how to be a good partner or husband or significant other. Um, and we probably, not to a fault of our parents, but we grew up very differently. And so when you aren't comfortable, you actually probably over-index in some other things. And I think that's the reality is, no, it's probably I'm avoiding some things sometimes when I go deeper into those things.
For sure. I can feel it. And I would say the same thing. I mirrored that identity, which was, doing stuff that I was comfortable with,
Yeah.
and work with something. I always said this. I said, I'll outwork you any day of the year. Like that's one thing you can't have on me. Our society encourages it. It absolutely
Yeah,
encourages
the
it,
US
right?
is pretty bad about it,
And
for
it's
sure.
tough. I mean, just this is me just again projecting. It's when you're in a business that we used to work off emails, right? Like, and if you didn't email someone back, you had a day, right? Now it's a text message and a response and what?
Yeah, it's instant gratification
Or it's
on
not even
everything.
it's like if you're not responding, you're not listening to me. And it's just tough because again, it goes to that, that
Sure.
merry-go-round, that hamster wheel, um, that you want to just put a wrench in. And it's tough. Yeah, I listening to you and talk about the family, for sure, like, being present is everything,
No
right?
question.
Having deep conversations is everything, and you had mentioned it, what is it like to know now that you're creating some patterns, um, but you've got a daughter as well that
Yeah.
what does that look like to you?
Well, it's funny you say it, and by the way, I'm curious on your side because on your business, your whole business is you. People want you. It's very different. You are the business, so that probably adds even more pressure in some of those things. So just wanted your take on that, but I'm happy
Well,
to answer the
my
Reese
my take on
question
that
as well.
is I enjoy the pressure, right? I excelled at it. I loved it. Someone calls me and says, "I want you." What a dopamine hit
Sure,
that is.
right?
What an adrenaline hit is, and it comes from everywhere, from friends to people that don't know you to top CEOs to
Sure.
athletes, and they're like, "You're my guy." It's incredible. It's an incredible feeling. What I've learned from it, very difficult learning experience, is that's not sustainable. Um, Internally, I wasn't building a foundation that could say, okay, without any of that, who am I? Right? Like, so you talked about
Yeah.
identity, and you asked a great question. So I'm going to give you the answers. My identity, my, you know, tree per se, with those branches were all that stuff, and it was fixing for people and all that stuff. But the root wasn't really that strong. And so now I'm trying to change that because what if I don't want to be that? Right? Like, what if I don't want to answer my phone every day
Yeah.
or be the fixer or be the guy where if you need something, I'm your guy, right? Not to everybody, right?
Sure.
Certainly to the people I love the most in this world, but not to everybody. And it can be death by 1,000 cuts.
Well, I feel it and I see it, but I commend you because walking away from that has got to be, or even just trying to throttle it down has got to be incredibly difficult because even if you're ready to go there, everyone around you doesn't know you that way yet. They know you as the responsive or this or whatever it is. And so it's got to be hard.
It's one of the toughest things in the world. I would say you cannot describe it. And I think, for the audience listening, it doesn't have to be a real estate agent. It could be an athlete. It can be anything that your identity is tied to, right?
Mhm.
So what you're just talking about is identity, right? Like, and it's like you said it, your identity is, again, answering your question, yes. And for people listening, I am here to talk about it if you are going through it because it's extremely, extremely difficult. Um, and I don't think it's talked about very much. And also it's not encouraged. It's not encouraged for someone to say, look, you have a job that pays you quite a bit of money. You get a lot of notoriety from
Yeah.
it. You're good at it. And to say, you know what? How do we do this a different way? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Or you don't love it. You're not passionate about it anymore. And so, but people from the outside look at it and say, are you crazy? Like, why would you walk away from that? But your identity isn't defined by what you accomplish, it's defined by who you are internally. And I think watching you on this journey probably scares me even more.
When you look at me now, right, in this chair, who do you see as Alex Perry?
Um, Someone very different than probably what I would have said 2 years ago. And I think the lesson in that for me is I think you've taught myself and maybe many others that your identity isn't defined by externally. In other words, you know, I don't view you as Alex Perry, the realtor. I don't view you as Alex Perry, the super successful entrepreneur. I don't view you as Alex Perry, the bachelor, the podcaster. Um, I don't see any of those things. I actually see now someone who is really, really making an effort to be a champion of others or create an environment and a space for others to find themselves or for others to come forward with themselves. And in order to do that, you've gone on this journey yourself of trying to reform your own identity away from how the external world sees you and what you actually bring to the table. And I think at the end of the day, I can't believe I'm about to use a word that has probably been so taboo to our family for so long. It really is just love. I think you're trying to put love out into the world, but make it in a way that's acceptable, especially maybe and there might be some gender speak in this, but for men who are afraid to be vulnerable, who are afraid to be transparent, who are afraid to share their journeys, I think you're your identity to me now is one who's going through a journey himself, sacrificing himself to give other people a venue to be their true selves. And I think the word probably I would say is actually the words we would never use as families before is loving, empathetic, and thoughtful and intentional about it.
I appreciate that. That means a lot to me, and it hits home, and sometimes at like the expense of yourself to get that message out, because you're going through it, because you're actually doing some things that, like I said, like some people are like, well, why would you ever do that? Why would you ever throw away the easy button? And it's like, there's more to this world, because there's more, and so I appreciate that. And if I were going to respond and say, I won't say the same thing that a lot has changed in the last 2 years. I've learned more about you, which is been nice, but I don't think that changed. I think I learned more. I think by spending more time with you, I got more depth. So what did I learn was I learned more depth about you. I don't think that depth was gone. I just was learning more about who you are. Yeah, we talk about identity, right? And externally, you're the easiest person to put into a box. And I mean that not in a bad way, but just like you're happy, you're that's what you put out.
Sure.
You're high energy, you're intentional, you listen to people's names and what they do, and you want to know what their kids play sports and how they're doing, and you will not lose at any cost, at any cost, at any cost whatsoever. You are stubborn as anyone has ever met in their life, and you will find a way to get it done. So that's the external. Dom will find a way. I don't care. He will find a way. He would be bleeding out. He'll find a way. And
Merely a flesh wound.
you will bleed it out, and everyone knows that about you. They didn't invest in Scrap It. If anyone needs waste management removal, they didn't invest in Scrap It. They invested in you, and you bleed out. And even if we crush it or don't, there'd be no loss. Internally, I think you're figuring it out. You have the biggest heart, a huge, huge, huge heart, huge. And in time, I think you'll learn where to use it more. For your wife, your daughter, your friends. It's so sporadic. It's to the world like mine was.
Yeah. Focused.
But the beauty of it is once it gets focused, that same energy that you put in that you'll bleed out, you would give, because you give it to me, you give it to Elliot, you give it to Dad, to Mom, Matt. So internally, I think that is what I've learned about you through my journey. And I think you want to help so much. That's you. You want to help. You want to be, but once you can like slow it down and then realize what, now I'm projecting whatever. Once you realize what your own journey is really about, once you realize that like Dom Perry is not the fucking grinder. Dom Perry is not the person that has to be happy to everyone. Dom Perry is not that person. Dom Perry is this, and that's for you. But once you have that, it will be 10x more powerful than the shared space that it is. That's my opinion.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think what I hear you saying is harness that love the ones that love you, and harness it where it should be. So
yeah, and again, we're mirrors, bro. We're mirrors.
for sure.
It has to start with you.
No question.
So you could love Reese, Lane, Elliot, me.
I think you're right.
To the moon.
Yeah.
But it's got to come from in here first. From in here. And that's the practice that all of us are learning. All of us learning. And for the people in the audience who are with us in this journey, who can see the outward success of what you want to call successes in the world, like success begins with this. In my opinion, that's what I've learned.
You said happiness, right? That's what you led with. Success is happiness, not anything else.
So you gotta be internally happy with yourself. So,
this is maybe a little imposter syndrome. It's really interesting to hear you say that because you might react to this differently. I genuinely think I have you fooled. And what I mean by that is, and I think I have everyone else fooled, I don't naturally have a big heart. And I know that about myself, and I know it so well about myself that I over-index because of it. And so outwardly, I try and project how much that is, but it doesn't come natural because I think it goes back to that, okay, I'll figure it out myself. So, I know those things about me, so I try and project actually the opposite.
and I'm no therapist or expert, but I don't believe that to be true. I think you're just not in touch with your inner self. And so
Fair.
you don't know that you have this incredible heart, or you don't know how to use it.
Yeah, maybe not harness the right
You don't
direction.
know how to use it. And from someone who didn't know how to use it either, like I did not know how to use it. I would say in the last year, 2 years, I am learning. I am learning it. And that's what I want for you. That's kind of what I said is like, no, I think you don't know how to use it. You think it's, let me do this and this and this and this, and teach their own. Everyone learns on their own time, and it has their own way of doing it. My way is different than yours, is different than Patrick, our producers, than different than
Patrick's
Elliot's.
awesome.
But I don't believe that to be true in the slightest. You just might be really scared to use it.
Yeah, maybe scared to use it. So fair enough. You made me laugh as you're saying that. I'm trying to think through my head, like which character in The Wizard of Oz didn't have the heart, and it was like, the line was courage, and then I couldn't get it right. And then I'm thinking about, there's this famous, I don't know if you've seen it, there's this famous meme that's a kitten looking into the mirror, and it sees its reflection, and it sees a lion. It's like, no, you're a kitten, and it's okay to be a kitten. You're not, you're not an imposter. So
I don't think you're an imposter. I think you're learning. I think as men, we are, you said it, but like we didn't get told how to use our feelings. We didn't get told like, I certainly wasn't told, tell your brother you love him, no, I did love you, but it wasn't told to us, and it wasn't just feelings were put aside. And that was a generational thing.
for sure.
But like you said, like, I have no shame in this. I will talk to our friends, our community about love and about talking about feelings and about everything. And I recognized what it was like to not talk about that and almost lose someone that, we love deeply. And I was like, never again. That was my wake up call, was like, I'm not putting that on the back burner, and I'm going to get in touch with that side of me that didn't show up to the hospital.
I think that's what I hear you saying. It unfortunate for so many of us that it takes a traumatic experience for us to realize what we value or what's important. And why can't we just naturally live that way? And I think I see you trying to do that, which is, no, I don't need the traumatic experience. I want to live life this way always.
Yeah, and tell your friends and your family and all that stuff. We don't need this. We can start this now. Like,
Yeah.
we don't want the traumatic experience because that's the universe showing you.
Everyone, if you have a kid, you learn very quickly the nature versus nurture and how strong genes are. And you learn it from your parents, then it travels down generations, and you try and you say you hope your kids get the best of your genes and none of your bad traits. Um, but it's really, really hard sometimes not to try and enforce your comfort zone and what makes you successful onto your children as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go into that more in a second, but I would tell you from just going back to the other part, and I mentioned this in a podcast before, but it always sticks with me, the Andre Agassi quote that, he got to number one in the world and he did it for external reasons, got to number one and was like, what is this? Kind of blew it up, went back to 156 in the world playing satellite tournaments.
Yep.
Worked every day for what he wanted, became number one world in the again, and it was totally different. And so for me, whether that's real estate or whatever it may be, and for you, it goes back to the reason that you're doing it, right? And also what's built if he had lost, if he didn't become number one in the world,
Yeah.
right? If I didn't become top real estate agent in the country, to me, what I've found through really the challenge of saying this isn't my identity is learning so much about who my identity is, which is love for my family. Like we talked about it, spending more time with your
Sure.
daughter, spending more time with you. Like I got to say it without crying. It's like the shame that you carry for not being there, like in like not celebrating birthdays or marathons that you ran or, I'm talking about you in general,
Yeah.
like, and there's tears because it's real. Like shame and guilt is real, right? Like you have it because you're like, well, you created excuses around it. I'm like, I'm busy. I got a lot going on. With your daughter, Reese, for me, and I'll share with the audience, I didn't know how to be an uncle. Like you said, you didn't know how to be a parent.
Yeah.
No one taught me how to be an uncle. And you're like, well, no one teaches anyone to be an uncle. But yeah, we just had this. It's hard to explain, but like, it's so hard to explain, but like, and I've tried to learn, but like, because I wasn't treated a certain way, I thought I didn't have to look at Reese a certain way, right? Like, or there was fear there. Like, I'm learning this, and I don't know if it's all true, but like, I didn't go to her sporting events, right? And it's like, why didn't I go? Because I was like, well, no one went to my sporting events, right? Like, I'm not saying I was best in sports to go to it, but like when I say that in high school and middle school, because we were at boarding school, right? And then, yeah, it's just interesting because your insecurities, my insecurities, were like, well, I want Reese to be tough, so I'm gonna tough love, and not show up. That's how I'm gonna show her. It's like the dumbest thing in the world, right? Like it's like the dumbest thing in the world. And guess what? It's not mine. It was brought from childhood and not knowing. You can say free pass. There's no free pass. You can only make it up today. But I'm talking about what I went through with your daughter, and I would say you kind of said it but didn't go deep. Is what is it that you exactly look to say, well, this does, I don't love this about myself. Also, I'm not changing it about myself, but I'm putting it on my children or my daughter.
Oh, I think the easiest one for her is, I think for us, because we never felt we were the smartest, we grinded. And so we just worked hard. Well, working hard meant action, 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 no rest, no downtime, no relaxation, no recovery. You're defined by what you're physically doing or even actually doing in the moment. And so For her, what worries me is I'm actually creating that exact same pattern and exact same routine is busyness and tons of stuff going on, equals worth, equals results, equals, hey, you're differentiating yourself in a certain way. And the reality is it's my own insecurities manifesting in a child, which is it's awful to say out loud and makes you feel like an awful parent. But I think to your point, you can see how it happens. And it's even little things. I joked with you and Elliot on the podcast, and it actually got played back to me by people after. You guys were giving yourselves a hard time for not being great uncles. And I said, it's not that you were bad, you just weren't there or you just weren't present. And all they really care about is that you're there, that you're present. And I think part of the challenge for us is we always thought if you did something, you had to be good at it, or you had to be perfect at it, or you had to do it well. And kids don't view it that way. It's you just got to be there.
Ooh, yeah.
And I think for us, and maybe that's because you said it, we didn't have someone who was there. And so we didn't know that.
Well, and I just breathe really hard. The deepest part of that is not believing that showing up is enough. So, right. So that's the idea
said.
of it, which is really hard. I mean, I have this bracelet that says
Yeah.
enough, and it's this idea that you can just show up and not be this person, not be the fun uncle or the comedy or the one that's handing out money or the just being, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something I've been working on a lot, which is like, yeah, how do you just show
So,
up and
yeah.
be you and not think that you got to put on a show or be something? And
I think
yeah,
you and Elliot have actually done a really good job of that over the last year. But I think to do that, you have to be secure in who you are or comfortable in who you are. And if you aren't, it's really hard. Really, really hard.
100%. And I think, from I'm not parenting a child, but if I was parenting myself right now, which I'm told that's what I learned to learn how to do, is learn how to parent myself. Sounds weird, but truth is you've got to tell that child, if it was my inner child or whatever, it's your inner child. We don't need to go to Reese, is that like, you can just be you and still be loved. You can just be you and it's okay.
Yeah.
You can just show up, not overwork, and it's okay. And something that simple has been so foreign to our family.
Yeah. You showed your enough bracelet, right? Which is, to paraphrase, you are enough. And I think the challenge is, and not just our family, you live in a world where you get your worth from external validation. You're a dancer, you're great at school, you're super smart, you're good looking, you're this, you're that. You're always will be chasing in that scenario. Your worth actually comes from inside. And I think it's really hard to get there. Really hard to get there sometimes.
Yeah, it's a lot easier if you start with it.
For sure. Well, I think that's our excuse, but yes, I
It's
agree.
extremely hard, and that's the overworking. I mean, you just said it. I mean, if someone had come to you and said, "Dom, you're smart," right? You're actually smart.
Yeah.
What does smart mean? What, you didn't get straight A's? You got some bad grades because someone deemed that you were in a school that was maybe where you shouldn't have been. I mean, maybe if you'd been in a school that was easier, you would have been smart. You would have been the smartest kid in the room, right? Like, it's kind of
Yeah.
relative. I mean, it's a side tangent, but what does success mean? Like, what does success mean? It means what to the outside world? You made money. You drive a nice car. That's successful. Are you happy?
Well, happiness is
Elliot and I talk
success.
about this
Yeah.
all the time. I think successful is determined by happiness. Let's start there. It's the number one thing.
Yeah.
That person's successful. Why? They're happy. They're secure. They love others. Right? Like, to me, those are the top three to start. Then we'll go from there,
Yeah, and I think that's the mindset shift you've made or the realization you've come to, and I think you're there, and I think the challenge is we're all there. We're all getting there or learning that. Society isn't there.
No,
and our surroundings sometimes, especially in a city like this, sometimes are definitely not there either. And it makes it hard.
But I mean, I would challenge you this, and I'm not saying yourself, but what's a successful dad? Being present,
Totally agree.
right? Not what car you got your daughter.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, she won't remember, well, she might remember her first car. But my point being is it's like at the end of the day, these are the things that we lose. And I'm not talking about bad parenting. But I'm saying that's what we're talking about is just, being present. I think the reason this conversation has gone this way with Dom and I is because we have taken our relationship that was extremely surface level for a long time. When I say extremely surface level, I couldn't tell you what job he had at Brinker because I just didn't understand it. I'm like, I think he's head of HR. He does a lot. It's embarrassing, but it was, I'm going to prove myself in my business. I love my brother. I loved my brother. He stuck up for me, and he was an incredible big brother. It makes me emotional.
Thanks.
But I wanted to prove myself, just as if you wanted to prove yourself. And then I was like, but there's no depth, right?
Sure.
There's no depth there. That's why I didn't have a great relationship with my niece. Didn't want to go over the house as much. I mean, I loved when he cooked me burgers, but that's the extent of it, right? And it was get in the house, get out of the house. How you doing? Great. Blah, blah, blah. We're cheerleaders, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. But and some people have great relationships with their brothers and their sisters. And our relationship wasn't a bad relationship, but it wasn't one where I could call Dom, getting emotional again, at 5 a.m. in the morning and be like, man, I am struggling and I need you. What does that mean?
I think it speaks to the evolution probably of our relationship and where probably both of us always wanted it. It's so interesting to hear it from your perspective and Elliot's perspective for me sometimes because it is different. And I think that's probably a good thing. I've always, to your point, I think we've always been each other's biggest cheerleader, especially externally. Even if there was competition internally or subliminally, whatever that may have been, we've always supported each other to the best we can. I've never once not genuinely been excited or happy for your guys' achievements, success, your growth individually, whatever it may be. And so that part's, I've never felt like I've been in competition with you guys either. So yes, that might drive you because you see successful brothers or you see success around and you want to be as successful, but I've never felt like I was in competition or that I had to be better, which I appreciate. I think I always worried about being a good big brother. And supporting you guys the way you needed to, or doing some different things, especially when we were younger and you guys came to the same boarding school I went to, then you went to the same college I went to. I'm like, I was probably an asshole at times. Like I was so caught up in my own self doing. I'm like, well, was I actually supportive? And so I always wondered, did I do enough as a big brother to help you? And I think I always chalked up us not having deeper conversations of just in different life phases more than anything of, okay, married with a kid now and you guys are living a bachelor lifestyle. It's not that there isn't a lot of love and respect. We're just living in different worlds. And I think now the biggest difference is, to use a cheesy analogy, we were cheerleaders for each other before, meaning we'd cheer each other on, hype each other up. I think now we're coaches for each other, which is we tell each other how to actually get better, or have the difficult conversations or go deeper into the things that require us to go deeper or honestly even think, which sometimes brings up things you don't really want to talk about.
Fair. And I never saw you as competition. I think it was just, maybe it was, but it was more of like, stay in your lane. I think that for us, what happened was life events. I think without Elliot going to treatment and going through what he went through, where I could admit that to the audience, like I'm working on myself and going through different things and opening up, obviously. it created that space, right? It was we didn't have the space for it. It wasn't, it just didn't feel like it was available, because everyone lives different lives from a brother and sister standpoint, right? Like no one's married at the same
Yeah.
time, kids at the same time,
Fair.
and they have close relationships, but maybe they've dealt with trauma in their family and that brought them closer together. Or, ours is a definitely unique, different way of going about it.
Do you think some of that's because we swept everything under the rug? Like even growing up or even as a family, we never, and so this is me making excuses, right? We're at different stages in life, or, hey, we never did it as kids, but maybe we just didn't know.
I think there's a shield up. I think it's such a protective shield to not get hurt, to not bring an emotion. I say that because, like, for some odd reason, it came to my head that, like, when Reese was younger, she went to the hospital and had a health scare. For most uncles, that would have been, like, debilitating, right? Like, I can't move until I find, not just for the daughter, but for you.
Yeah.
And I think back on that, and I was like, the safety mechanism, I'm not going to worry about that, right? Like, she'll be fine. She's tough. Like, I didn't want to take any of that on from the shield of, like, not having emotion to it. Does that make sense? Now, today, if you told me that, I'd be like, I drive over to your house. I drive, again,
you'd find the best treatment in the world.
Yeah. I'd be like, immediately. What doctor do I know she's getting in there tomorrow? And it's just, I don't know if it's like, it's fascinating because, again, I keep saying for the audience, it's like, well, this must sound like the obvious to everyone. And it's like, it wasn't to us. Like, it wasn't. Like, and so it's just a different upbringing where your emotions are at bay until they need to be, right? Like, obviously, or I don't know. It's such a weird mindset and feeling. But I again, I would ask you, Ellie and I are what?
Can I share something with you on that story?
Yeah,
that
sure.
I've probably never told you. And by the way, I think part of that is we were taught emotions equal weakness, right? Or vulnerability equals weakness. That's why it's hard to break down that shield or go further. And we live that way. I think we're getting way better about it. There's probably been, I don't know, 3 times in my life, maybe, if I can count on my hand, where I've actually been really hurt or disappointed or upset by an action a brother has taken. And I think the reason why is you hold your family so close or in such high regard. You not coming to the hospital when Reese was sick was one of those times. And I couldn't, for the life of me as a brother, understand, like, where are you? Like, what is more important to you that you can't be here or understand what's going on? And I probably never shared that with you because I was probably too much of a chicken shit, honestly, to share it with you. But that genuinely hurt from a just brother standpoint, because those are the times you really need your family more than anything else.
Feel it, and I apologize. And how it's funny that you shared that, and it's funny that I brought that up.
Yeah, I never would have even thought, of that.
And
incident.
I would never have thought. I've never brought that up once in my life. So obviously, that was something that needed to be cleared. Powerful, and I apologize.
Yeah. The good news is apology accepted, and you've been amazing. So it's not.
No, but it's good to feel that.
But I think it is interesting because to hear your perspective on why you didn't come in that moment, I'm not thinking about it from your point of view. I'm thinking about it from.
I was so caught up in my own life.
But it makes sense.
But no, I was caught up in my own life, and I think part of you, there's no excuse, and it's caught up in my own life. And the other thing would be, if I go, it's real. Like, if I go and see it, if I'm like, she's Dom's daughter, she'll be fine. She's tough. Because Dom's tough. Nothing's going to break.
Interesting.
Nothing's going to break her, right? And it's,
yeah.
Again, there was a reason it got brought up. I say, the other thing I'd ask is, like, you're 16 months older than Ellie and I.
Yeah.
Ellie and I are as close as it can be. What was your feeling? Did you ever feel lonely because of our connection, and also Matt's been on the podcast, and Matt's 6 years older than you, or 6 years older.
6 years older
older
than me,
than
5 years
us.
older than me.
Yeah. You wanted to be a good big brother, but do you feel, and this is not throwing Matt under the bus because we've had Matt and talked about this, did you feel like Matt was a good big brother?
At times, absolutely. I think I put undue pressure on Matt, and Matt never knew this, and we actually probably uncovered this on the podcast last time with Matt. I always looked up to Matt. Like, your big brother's a hero. Like, he's amazing. He can do anything, and he's badass. And your friends look up to your older brother, and you have these older siblings. And so I always held Matt on a pedestal. Now, that's not fair to Matt. Matt didn't know that, and Matt was trying to do his own thing. And he's 5 years older. He could care less about his little shit of a brother.
Yeah.
In most cases. I think for me, and I don't think I realized it maybe even until the last 3, 4, 5 years until we actually started talking about things. I always knew you and Elliot had a special relationship. And I actually love that for both of you. I've never felt threatened by that, never disliked that. I was happy you guys had it. And then Matt, because he was 5 years older, was old enough that it was different. And because we did our own thing, I've just been by myself. And I think some of the armor I've built up, or the shield, is no one's going to help you. No one's going to be there. Yes, your family loves you. Your brothers love you, but you're on your own and you better figure it out. And so even to this day, if things get bad, I'll be like, all right, I'm on my own. I got this. I'll figure it out. And I think that's probably the difference in the pecking order. I think we've always been close. I am incredibly fortunate to say my best friends are my brothers. Very few people actually get to say that. And so I love it now, but I think, yeah, there's definitely a part of me that says, no, you're on your own in this world.
Yeah. And some of it's, there's two sides of the coin, right? I love the relationship I have with Elliot. It's magic, right? And at the same time, man, I wish that sometimes I had that solo in me, and he knows that he feel the same way, right? It's, I think he's tired of asking me what we're doing for dinner tonight. I think this has been incredible. I think I want to end with
Can I
this.
ask you a question about that? Sorry.
Yeah,
just,
sure.
I see both you and Elliot maturing, might not be the right word, but growing, evolving, looking at life differently. I think, especially for the outside audience who sometimes doesn't see you as individuals or sees you as twins, I would think it's got to be incredibly difficult to know probably the relationship you value most in your life that you never want to leave is probably the also biggest thing that needs to evolve for you both to go forward. And that might be me projecting on what I see from the outside. But I'm curious your take, because I think that's kind of where you're both at.
I breathe, deep breath.
Sorry, now I get to ask you
No, it's fine.
Some questions.
I guess there's that saying, right? Your greatest strength can be your greatest weakness, right? It's tough. We've been there. We've supported each other. We've both he had a difficult couple of years that, were hard for him, hard for me. I think you just have to trust the universe. And I don't want to deflect. There's times when you need your family and you need your brother, you need your wife or anyone more than anything in the world. And I think there's times when you're like, we need separation. We need to go different ways, or we need to give each other space. And I believe in short amount of time, the universe is asking us of that. I think it was absolutely needed 2 years ago. It's tough. It's tough. A lot of twins, and I talked to a lot of people who are twins, have huge codependencies. Huge. So I don't know, you'll never break that bond.
I don't think you want to break it.
No, and you don't want to. But you have to allow space for someone else. Both of us want to be married. We want partners, right? And I'm pretty sure the partner's not going to want me knocking on the door asking,
walking
where
in
my
at,
ETs is every night, justifiably. We've been really good when each other's been in relationships to kind of give space. And because we learned we learned that along the way. I'm deflecting on the question. It's hard. The hardest truth is, yeah, at some point, I or Elliot's going to be here on this earth, and I'm not going to be. And I would have to deal with that, or he'd have to deal with that. It's practice. So one thing at a time. Right now, it's getting me regulated in a good spot.
And I don't think you're deflecting, by the way. I think you answered it honestly.
It's a great tough question, and TBD to the max.
I think you said, though, something that resonates for everybody is sometimes your greatest strength can be the thing you need to change the most sometimes. And that's really, really difficult because you're going to always lean into that strength.
Yeah. And I think, look, that for Elliot and I'm doing something with Elliot right now to say, look, I'm trying to empower Elliot and say, look, here's your opportunity to help me. Help me, right? Like, go do it, right? Like, I'm not going to do it anymore. Like, I used to do this. I used to hold this weight. I'm putting this down, but I need you to pick it up, right? And so more to that in time, but like, let's see how that works, right? Let's see how the scales change a little bit.
Yeah. And I asked you a really tough question the other day in front of Elliot. And I said, is that you can talk about trying to let Elliot do that and take over, but some of that is also, is it control or trust on your end too?
I mean, for us Perrys, Matt a little bit excluded, control is
your safety blanket.
It's the strong and it's the strength and the weakness, right? It's the biggest strength we have and the biggest crutch we will ever have. So yeah, it goes back to trust, right? It goes back to saying, if it all falls apart, you still have your family, you still have your friends, you still have, if you have your health. I mean, that's kind of also what the podcast leans on too, is like, we've had people who have had every disease and trauma.
Yeah.
And they've sat in that chair and everyone have said, it all comes back to that. So it's like, I'm learning that lesson as hard as anyone can learn that lesson. Just let it happen, right? And it's easier said than done, but just let it happen. It was a question I was going to end with you, and again, I know we're going to have you on the podcast again with all the brothers, so maybe it will be a recheck in. And this will be kind of funny, but it's not. Like, on the golf course, Dom,
I think I know where you're going.
Dom is as hard as he is on himself as anyone would be in the world to anyone. They're like, man, this guy is hard on himself. He is not a professional golfer and he is hard on himself. But I think we tend to do that in our lives too, whether it's really subconscious or internal. The golf course provides a place where it can almost be comical.
Yeah.
But would you ever treat yourself that way? Would you ever yell at 8-year-old Dom like that?
Yeah. I mean, I think you know the answer to this question. I think number one, and you kind of alluded to it, there's a reality check. If you're not that good, you shouldn't be that mad at yourself. Let's just be honest about that. So I think that's step one. I think step two is, broader than the golf course is the negative self-talk. Like, I love people. I love everyone else. I would never talk to anyone else the way I talk to myself, or the way I put myself down, or what you say. And some of it's tongue in cheek, but some of it's serious. And there's some truth in every bit of sarcasm, all those things. And so it's like, wow, you really must not like yourself if you do these things. And I think for me, some of that's a little bit of a driver or a push of it stems back to, I'm uber competitive. And so that's probably some of what you see coming out on the golf course, but that uber competitive isn't because I want to win. It's because I hate failure, or I'm afraid to fail, or I don't like failure. And so because of that, it manifests in a lot of different ways. And I think one of them is probably negative self-talk.
Because you can't be perfect.
No.
It's impossible.
It is impossible.
But you expect that of yourself.
Right or wrong, there's a famous quote that says, perfection isn't attainable, but if you shoot for it, you might just get excellence. And I believe that. And so there's a standard or a bar that might not ever be attainable that you try and hold yourself to, or you try and, hold your teams to or others to. But yeah, maybe that's probably too unrealistic.
Okay, and I'd say, I keep saying last question, I'm going to give you another question. If there was one thing that you wanted to change, or you wanted people to see differently than the identity of Dom Perry, what would that be?
Ooh, I need a pre-question for that to have time to answer that articulately. I think I read something recently that I loved, and it said the truest form of yourself is how you act on vacation. And I think a lot of people probably will know me or think of me as works hard, has fun, does a lot of different things, lots of things going on. But I think the truest form of myself is actually just playful and fun. Because that's how I am on vacation. I just want to relax, want to chill, want to have a good time, want to be around friends and family, and enjoy the moment. And I think that's probably a lot of times the thing I'm furthest away from, unfortunately. But I'd rather be known as that than anything work related or anything else.
So you'd want people to say, look, Dom is just a playful guy, as opposed to Dom is the grinder?
Yeah, or just good energy. Like I want to be, we've talked about people can be batteries, right? You can be the positive or the negative charge. You want to be the positive charge. You want to create that energy for those around you and for yourself.
Yeah, and I'll check and I'd say for me, just if I were to answer that question, which I have before, is like, instead of being the real estate guy, right, or the high energy guy, because
Yeah.
that's what I want to say, it was like, no, he cares, or he's a deep thinker, or he's intentional or thoughtful. That was the change, right? Like, I still do real estate, still,
Yeah, but it's not what defines you.
but it's not and it's tough because outward appearances will always be outward to the people that just see you casually. But the people that are like, oh, no, I didn't see that in him, right? Like, or I like seeing that in him, or that's a new part of Dom that I didn't know, right? Like, I will say to the audience, I'm going to end here, and then I know what charity we're giving to, but we're still going to ask.
Appreciate it.
Is that I give Dom a ton of credit, right? He's listened to every podcast we've done. I'm going to laugh and say, I don't know how many people have done that, but
I want to support, and I learn
every podcast. But, we have gotten super vulnerable with our family, crazy vulnerable. It's like an open book to this, to anyone that listens and anyone that will ever listen. It's like, and he didn't sign up for that, right? Like, he didn't sign up for that. And he's embraced it. But more, again, I always get emotional when I'm feeling all this stuff that's so true, is that change is hard, right? Like,
really hard.
Change, like real change, is hard. But I can see him being open to it, right? Like, I can see you asking questions. Sometimes he's silent. Sometimes it's just listening. Listening to Ellie and I now, who talk and have gone on our spiritual journeys and our gurus and our shamans and our ayahuasca, and we can laugh on it. And some of it, Ellie and I will talk to Dom so that he hears us and hears what we went through, so he doesn't have to go through it, right? Like, and like, that's love, right? That's
For
love.
sure.
But I give you so much credit for listening and trying, because I see you try. So
I appreciate
love that in you. Makes me emotional.
I appreciate it.
Charity of choice. Always give to charity of choice.
Yeah, my entire family everyone's been super supportive, but I'm fortunate to do a lot with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. They are a special place, and no cause I believe in more. So always going to be St. Jude.
We always love, which we will do. And I just want to thank the audience. You got some real Dom Perry, and not everybody gets to see the Dom Perry.
Can we laugh about that? Because I think you were afraid you would never get that.
Yeah, so we're making progress here. Thank you. I will end with this because we are I love you family now. Dom, I love you.
I love you too. Is it the dad hand to the chest?
Exactly.
I love you too.
Thanks for being on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Alex Perry on Fire. It means so much to me and the wonderful team that makes this all possible. I'm now passing the flame to you. Please follow, like, and subscribe so you can always stay up to date. Thanks again, and stay fired up.